And good morning, everyone, from our Boston Regional Training Center here in Nashua, New Hampshire. This is Matt Schwegler with ITC. Joining me today is Jason Gagnon for our live tutorial on the basics of using the iOS app. That's the FLIR Tools app that's available on both the tablets, it's the Apple tablets and the iPhone. Joining me is Jason Gagnon. Jason is our technical support manager. I'm going to pass control of the presentation over to Jason, and he's got a few introductory slides, and then we'll get into the main presentation here on the FLIR Tools app for iOS.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to start out with just a quick PowerPoint, just an overview of the app and a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. And then we're going to get into a demo of some of the functionality that you have in the mobile app. So today's presentation is about the mobile app for iOS, for iPhone and iPad. This is a free app, and it's available in the App Store. Requires iOS 7 or higher. If you search for FLIR Tools, you'll find it right away. The app itself allows you to connect live and import JPEGs from compatible FLIR Wi-Fi cameras. Some camera functions can be controlled while you're live. For example, the focus can be adjusted. You can adjust your level and span. And you can adjust the measurement range. If your camera has multiple calibration ranges, you can change that from the mobile app. So you can essentially remotely control the camera over Wi-Fi. You can also add measurement tools while you're connected live. All of the changes that you make to the camera are seen in real time on the app and on the camera screen. So if you adjust the focus or the scale, you'll see that change right away on the camera screen. If you add a spot or an area box, you'll see that as well. So it just sends those commands over to the camera right away. From the app, you can capture JPEG snapshots, and you can also record MPEG videos. Captured and imported images can be edited, analyzed, and saved. So if you import an image from the camera memory, it's a radiometric JPEG. You can edit this image using the app. Same applies if you capture an image from a live connection. It captures it, it stores it into the app library. You can open that up, you can measure temperatures just as if you're working on the PC with it. You can create some reports from the app. These are PDF files. And you can also share images and reports using file sharing services like FTP and Box.com. They can also be exported from our app to the Photos folder on the device. So there are different ways that you can get images out of our app to other areas so you can share them. We'll talk a little bit about the Box.com connection once we get into the app. Just a note about technical support and training resources before we jump into the app. All of our on-demand training courses can be found at irtraining.com. Many of these are free. Camera operation courses, they're pretty comprehensive. If you're new to a camera, you might want to check out that site and run through some of those on-demand courses. For any technical support questions, this is the place to go. You want to go to support.flir.com. This is our home page for all of our support services. You can download and install FLIR Tools for PC and all of our other software for the thermography cameras.
Are we still okay? We're going to have the email addresses here at the end of the presentation. If people want to email us from this particular webinar and this specific topic, I think we can definitely take those on email.
Yeah, that's
the majority
fine,
of everything else should really be going through this new portal.
It is, because the nice thing about this portal is that it's a global system. So we have support agents all over the world in your time zone. So it also creates a ticket, a support ticket. So it's trackable. We can escalate it. We can reassign the incidents. Unless it's something super urgent, use this system, creates a support ticket, and the guys can help you, in your region. So you can also download data sheets and manuals. You can search our knowledge base. It's a pretty detailed knowledge base of FAQs. And as I mentioned, you can submit technical questions. This is probably one of the more useful features of the site because it's kind of like a help desk system. So you can go there if you have any technical questions about the cameras, the apps, anything like that. Go to the website, ask a question. People, we try to get back to you within a day or two at the most. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Let's get into the app.
As Jason loads up there, just want to mention that we'll have a little promotion here at the end of the presentation today. We've got Information 2018 coming up in Austin, Texas, this September 11th through the 14th. Right in the middle of registrations right now. If you want to sign up, there's still plenty of time, but the hotel room block is starting to go. So if you want to get a room down in Austin, to sign up for that, we'll have information on that here at the end of the presentation today.
This is the FLIR Tools app. Now, I have some images that I've previously imported, so you can see that here, obviously in these different groups. If you've just installed the app, that'll be totally blank. So this library kind of builds up as you capture images and as you import images from your camera.
And just to want to clarify here, Tammy had a question. Folks, this is specific to the tablet and the iPhone platform. So the Apple, the iPad, and then the iPhone only. So this will be different from the version on your desktop. The Mac version, by the way, of FLIR Tools is no longer supported at this time.
At this time, yeah.
But there's a PC version.
Yep.
That version, however, is as I say, it's more robust. It's
definitely
a lot more robust and very different from what we're doing here today.
Yeah. This is strictly the iOS version of the app. The Android version is different. PC version is different. PC version is definitely more robust. You have a lot more functionality, particularly on the reporting side on the PC version than in this app. The reporting is relatively basic here. But this is sort of the home page here when you start up the app. This gear button up in the upper right corner has some settings here that you might want to check out, particularly down towards the bottom. You have your temperature units, distance units. That's controlled from the app. You have some report settings, the very last section here, if you tap that. So if you're using the reporting feature here, you can enter some header and footer text, and you can set a logo for your reports. If you've used the PC version of Tools, this is kind of similar. You can do the same thing with the free version of the FLIR Tools for Windows. So you can set this up beforehand, set up your units beforehand. The share section allows you to link some of these file sharing services to the app. So I actually have my box.com account linked, and I'll show how that works a little bit later. And the main advantage of that is simply that you can get images, sort of export images out of the app to a box folder. So it gives you a nice, easy way to share files that you've captured with these other services. The import button is right up here. So the little arrow. So if I tap this, so these are your options, and this will vary a little bit. I have an FTP in a box account set up here, so that's why those show. Those won't show if you don't have those services configured. But you can import sample images. You can import images from your photos library. That's your iOS photos library. Import from FTP or box. And then the last link is for instruments. So if you're trying to connect to a camera, this is what you would tap. Now it's going to search for any available Wi-Fi cameras. And in this case, it found my E95. So now with this camera, you have three options. I can capture a snapshot, just a single JPEG. I can import images from the camera memory. So this camera uses an SD card. Some cameras use internal memory. That will import any images that are on the camera into the app. The third option allows me to connect live to the camera. This isn't available on all cameras. If you have an E*X, for example, like an E4, E5, 6, or 8, with those cameras and the C2 and C3, you can only import images from those cameras. You won't have the live connection, but from the E40 on up, you should have the live option available to you. Okay. So I'm going to start out with the live connection. So I'm just going to tap live. Now, it gives you two options here. The remote viewer is really just that. It's essentially a mirror image of your LCD screen. No controls, no nothing. It's just if you want to share the screen, it's basically what it's for. Remote control allows for much more functionality. All right. Now I'm connected live to my camera at this time. And just to show that we're live, I can move my coffee cup here. So hopefully you can see that moving around. All right. All right. Now, can't really tell what this is, and I kind of did that on purpose because I wanted to demonstrate some of the control functionality that you have in the app. On the left-hand side, right over here, this is your focus control. So this camera allows for remote focus. So I have the ability to autofocus, focus far, and focus near. So if I tap the autofocus, okay, now it automatically focuses on the image just as it would in the camera. So now we can see that this looks like this is actually one of our camera labs that we use in the ITC classes. It simulates an electrical connection fault. You can also adjust your level and your span, your thermal tuning, we call it. That's over on the right. So what we can do is if we kind of pinch the scale. All right, so what I'm doing here to adjust the scale is just kind of pinch my fingers on the temperature scale. You kind of pinch close to narrow it, pinch wide, separate your fingers there to widen the scale. And then to auto adjust the scale, you can just double tap. Okay, so now we're widening it. Now we double tap to auto adjust. And so we can see that on the camera as we make those changes. Another thing that you might want to take a look at is the arrow over here on the left. If we tap that, it's going to open up a panel where you can adjust some of the camera modes. So the first button allows you to change from the thermal camera to the visual and to some of the fusion options like thermal fusion, picture-in-picture, and also MSX mode. So you have full control over all these different options remotely from the app. The second button on the left is for your color palette. And with the color palette button selected, you can tap on whichever palette you like to set your desired palette. It's got the same list of palettes that you have available in the camera. Hang on one moment.
We're just going to restart the app here for a second because the communication slowed down a little bit. Question came up while Jason's restarting there. The thermal fusion, Michael, is, and I just replied back to Michael there, it's a blending of the IR and visible light elements coming from the camera. Most new infrared cameras have two feeds, two detectors in them. One is the thermal detector, the other is the visible light detector. That takes your control photo, your digital photo, like from a digital camera, which you can use in an infrared report. And that feature in the software blends those two together to give you, better, better contrast, better detail of the situation. A little bit different from MSX, where MSX is more takes the so I guess we call it the elements of contrast, like the edges of objects and detail, and pulls those things out and lays that over on the image as well.
Hopefully I think the delay is gone, right?
We're pretty good. We're pretty good now.
Pretty close.
Good. Yeah.
Good. Sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but it looks like this is a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, as Matt was saying, the MSX, if you look at the visual camera here, and then the MSX, it's sort of a combination of the thermal and the visual. And basically what it does is it uses edge detection on the visual camera and overlays those edges on top of the thermal image. And it can help in some cases to identify what you're imaging. So it's a sort of a form of image fusion. Picture-in-picture is another form of image fusion. It's just different ways that the camera combines the two images. Okay. And so you have the ability to change these modes with a live image, as we're seeing here, on a saved image. All the modern cameras save the two images all the time. So you always have the thermal image, you always have the photo. So you can make these changes on the JPEG and on the live image in the mobile app and in the desktop software. All right. Okay, so we talked about camera modes, we talked about palette. The third button, these are object parameters. We're all pretty familiar with this with the thermography cameras. These are all critical parameters if you're measuring temperatures. And you have full control over these parameters here in the app. And the fourth button here is for some camera settings. This is your temperature range setting. So I mentioned in the intro that you can change your measurement range if you have multiple ranges in your camera. Not all cameras do. This particular camera has 3 ranges. So this can measure up to 1500 degrees C, and it's divided up into 3 measurement ranges. This camera also has a lamp, so if you're in a dark area, this can help with your visual camera. There's also some camera information here as well. All right. So probably the most important thing here on this panel would be the camera modes, the palette if you want to change that, and your emissivity and your object parameters. Okay. Now I think there. It's much easier to demo when it's actually updating in real time. This is your scale adjustment. So again, I'm just pinching my fingers together to narrow that span and widening them to widen it. So it's pretty intuitive, if like most touchscreen apps. Then you can double tap on the scale. And that's how you can automatically adjust. I'm going to change this. Change this back to iron. Okay.
So, question came in from Lance. He's following along on his iPhone 7. Everything looks similar so far, but he doesn't see text labeling tools. Is that for the iPad version only?
Text labeling. We don't have text labeling.
Yeah, I don't think we have text. Lance, are you referring to text annotations? I don't believe the labeling feature. I don't that I recall.
Well, if you're editing a JPEG, you can add a text annotation, but that's just embedded in the JPEG for the reporting.
Okay.
So it will show up on the reports. There's no really no on-screen labeling or anything like that, that you can put on the image.
All right.
The measurement functions are down at the bottom. So there's a toolbar on the bottom, kind of towards the left here. You can add a spot meter, you can add a box, and you can add an elliptical area. Oops. And if you tap these tools, you can add them to the live image. And if you are connected to a camera, you'll see them appear on the camera screen, and they'll move around pretty much in real time. And every time you tap, you'll get another spot meter. And you can see the temperatures in the upper left. So these are your 3 spot temperatures right here. To remove these spots, just tap and hold and click remove. Okay. The box is an area, measurement area. And functionally, these work the same way they work in the camera, the same way they work in the desktop software. This can measure, if we tap and hold on the area, you can see the different options here. So spot meter just measures a single point. With these area tools, the box and the ellipse, you can measure maximum, minimum, average, temperature, and you have these little markers that jump around. You can turn those off. So you can choose exactly what you want to show about this area. So right now I'm only showing maximum, so that's what shows up over here on the left. If I tap min, you'll see both. Okay. And then of course you have the remove option. The ellipse, it's just a different type of area, just a different shape. Right? Same idea, functionally the same. If we tap and hold on that, you can see the same options. Okay, now over towards the right, underneath the scale, there are 2 options for capturing data. The camera, the furthest towards the right, looks like a little digital camera. This captures a single JPEG. The camcorder type icon will capture an MPEG video. Now, these are not radiometric videos, so there's no post-processing with the FLIR software for these. They're just color movies. Just keep that in mind. To do a radiometric, a thermographic recording, you have to use the PC software over USB or over Ethernet, depending on the camera model. So just want to make sure that everyone understands that. Now, before I capture anything, I just want to go up to the gear in the app up here, just above the scale. There's some settings here that control the video quality and the location for your saved images. So there's 3 options here. The first, if you tap on the first button, it will save to the camera memory only, not to the app. The middle button saves only to the device. Okay. Third, saves to both. So with the third button selected, when you hit save, you're going to get the image in the mobile app, and it's going to also save the image on the camera. There's some other options for video size, for units, so you have your temperature and distance units as well. Okay. So right now, when I hit save, I'm going to get this image both in my library on the app and on the camera. And these images you can post-process. The movies you can't, but the JPEGs that you save you can. So if I take a couple snapshots here, and we go back to the library, so I'm going to stop the live video, return to the library, I can see my 2 snapshots. I just captured these. Okay. If you wanted to import images from the camera memory, I didn't do that earlier. We go back to the same place we started, right? The arrow button right up here. So go back there, go back to instruments, and then we go to import. And this is going to look at what's on the camera memory right now and just import everything to your app. Okay, so that imports from the camera. Live is obviously a real-time video, real-time connection. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. So there's the import. So this is everything that was on my SD card on my camera. This here is the snapshot I just recorded. Okay. So it captures the overlay. Again, just like if you hit save in the camera. From here, if you want to edit the image, so if you wanted to do some additional measurements on this image, we tap edit right up in the upper right corner here. Okay. So now we can move these measurement functions around, and you can add more. And in addition, see, when we were live, we only had the spot in the two areas. With the JPEGs, you have a line also. So this is in addition to one extra tool here when you're looking at the JPEGs than we had when we were live. And there's a little graph, a little line profile graph that's shown up at the top. A little bit hard to see. All right. So as we move the line up and down, you can see that change. If we press and hold on the line, you can enable or disable that graph. And you can also flip the line, so it's either horizontal or it's vertical. If you want more control over it, then you'd have to use the desktop software. You can do like diagonal lines and stuff with the desktop.
Tammy's asking about the purpose of the line. Tammy, that's providing you temperature data across that plane or across that the max, min, average, and really, and then you see the profile on the left there.
Yeah, it's pretty much showing you, yeah, exactly. It's showing the minimum and maximum temperature on the line up here on the left. And then the graph is just showing you the temperature transition across the line. So it's basically sampling each pixel, the temperature at each pixel, and it draws a line to show you relatively, how the temperature is changing over that line. So your hottest temperature would be here, these peaks here, which makes sense just looking at it. You can see that in the image. These are the hottest areas. With the desktop software, you can actually export that line to CSV, which is a text file, which you could bring into Excel. So this is where the desktop software, it's a bit more robust. All right. Now you can obviously edit these measurement tools. You can add more spots. You can add more areas just by tapping these tools down here. Scale adjustment is exactly the same as when we were live. You can just again kind of pinch up and down to narrow or widen. You can double tap on it to auto adjust. Your palette choices are on the bottom menu. So when we have the JPEG, just a still JPEG, we don't have that panel on the left. That's only with the live image. So to adjust your color palette with a saved image, we have to tap the palette button at the bottom. And then from there, the options are pretty much the same, just a different approach. So all your measurement type functions are at the bottom. The very first button, this is where you can adjust your parameters on a JPEG. The same options, change your emissivity, reflected temperature. Just tap into that box, type the new value, then press done, and it applies it to the image. You also have your window temperature and window transmission. If you're using an hour window, you can set that here. And then this very last option is text description. This is what we were talking about a little bit earlier when someone asked about labeling. You can add just a kind of a brief note here. And you can save that with the image. And this note, it doesn't appear on top of the image. It's not like a label, but it embeds it into the image. And the advantage of that is that it will show up on the inspection reports. And you have a bit more versatility on the PC software with this. But if you're mobile and you find a problem, you can very easily add a little note to the image to remind you of what that problem was. So it's a handy feature, and that's right on the settings button. Just to the right of that, this is your image modes. Okay. Again, this is similar to when we were live, that panel on the left that swung out. Same thing. All right, this is where you can set your MSX. This is thermal only. I'm just going right from left to right here. This is thermal, what we call thermal fusion, which is kind of like a isotherm mode. Picture-in-picture mode, visual only.
Just want to clarify, Jason, there too. Is the bottom menu covering the lower span value when it's open like that?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Travis mentioned that.
Yeah, you're right. If we flip horizontal, or
there it is. Okay.
Not horizontal, vertical. Now you can see it. Yeah, that's a weird bug. It does overlay it, but when we hold it this way, then we can see it. I'm just going to go back the other way because I think it's a little easier to see. Okay. When we're done editing this, just remember to hit save in the upper right. It saves all those changes. Okay. And now we can go on to the next image. All right, so if you need to go back to the library, we just click back all the way and then tap any image that you want to edit, go to edit, and then make any changes that you need to. All right, now from here, when we're looking at the thumbnails, if you tap select, you can pick, just by tapping on these images, any images that are in that library. So you can tap or untap, you can see the check marks go on them. So when they're checked, they're selected. And if you have at least one of these images selected, it enables the buttons at the bottom. So this is where you can create a PDF report, for example. That's what the PDF icon is for. So the image sheet is just like a thumbnail gallery. If you've used the PC software, same exact idea. It's just a really basic report with thumbnail images. There's not any data. Create report, the first button has a little more information. So you can type some information here. I'll just be brief. Again, these reports are relatively basic. They're not nearly as advanced as what you can do in the PC software, but you can choose some different template options at the bottom. And the preview, it's a little bit small, but it does show you kind of an example of the layout. So with the first one, we have an IR and a photo and just a small data table. So now if I click create or tap create, this is what our report looks like. All right, so all those measurements show up. Everything, basically. All the parameters show. This might be hard to see, but a little note that I entered into the image shows up right underneath the thermal image. All right. And then if I go to the next page, the images, they don't look all that different, but you can see layout's the same. All the information is read from the image on the page. Okay. So now, if I tap done, generates that report. And there you go. So that's probably a little easier to see. Text is a little bit darker. Okay. So now in my library, I have my thermal image, or images, and my report. All right. So now the next step would be to typically get it out of the app into something where you can share this, share your report, share the images. So I'm going to go back to select, tap that. I'm going to tap these two images and the report. And I'm going to tap the first button with the arrow that points up. This is how you can get images, get data out of the app. You can attach them to an email. You can save them to your Photos library folder on the app or on the device. You can move these to a different folder in the library. And you can upload to FTP and Box. So I'm going to show the Box connection because I think this is kind of a cool way to share information between the mobile device and the PC. All right. So I already have this linked up, so I'm going to tap the Box button, and it's just going to upload. Should just take a minute. Okay. Now, I'm going to bring up FLIR Tools. I'm going to close this for now. We can bring that up again if we need to. And if this syncs like it should, okay. All right, so these are the images that I just uploaded. Now, because I have the sync folder added to my FLIR Tools library on my desktop, they show up on the desktop almost instantly. Okay. So if you're mobile and you need to get something back to your desktop PC right away, you can upload them to Box and just make sure that you use the Box Sync app, which is a separate app that is free from box.com. And then you can add that sync folder to your FLIR Tools library, and then it's that fast. You just upload, folders sync up, and this is the image I was editing on the mobile device. And you can see there's the note, right? So it reads that note that I typed into the mobile app that I saved with the image. All the measurement functions are there. All the parameters are there. So it's kind of cool. And now here's a PDF report, which, you know, again, these are somewhat basic, what you get out of the mobile device. But in here, in the desktop software, you have all these different reporting options to explore. So if you connect live, if you use the remote live connection with the app, it's a good way to collect images and edit images in the field. And then with these synchronization tools, you can really get them back to your office PC pretty quick. As long as you get an internet connection. All right. So I think we can probably call it a day.
Call it a day.
Okay.
That works.
I think we touched on all the main topics here.
That was a cool tip with the Box sync
yeah.
folder. I didn't realize that. That's great.
It is pretty cool.
Well, as Jason wraps up there, let me just take back control for a second. We're going to share concluding slides here. I've got a couple bits of information I want to put up there for everyone that's on, if you have other questions. First off, as I mentioned earlier, information is coming up in September. It's going to be September 11th to the 14th. And this is 2018 in Austin, Texas, right off of 6th Street there at the Hilton Austin. You can go to information.org, where we've got several packages that are available right now. There's a basic, premium, a VIP package. The VIP package includes a FLIR E8 thermal imager, and that's part of the package. So this is some really great value that's available for right now, if you act now, for some great pricing. The hotels, by the way, the hotel room block is starting to fill up. So if you are thinking of heading down to Austin and you want a place to stay, now's the time to act and make sure you get your reservation soon. Head to information.org. As I mentioned earlier, we are recording today's live tutorial. This will be available for playback here at a later date. A little bit of audio issues there early on, it sounds like, but for the most part, I think the recording went very well. And we'll just edit out a couple of these things here post-processing and get this up in the next week or so. And you can find that at infraredtraining.com/webinars. As always, we're very social online, very active on social media. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We've got our 5 channels here that we participate in for the valuable tips, current news and industry information, special training offers. Join us online, give us a follow, give us a like on any of these platforms, and stay connected with the Infrared Training Center. And as I mentioned earlier, we also have our email addresses. Jason had shown us the portal there, the customer help site. But if you do want to email Jason directly, his email address is right there, jason.gagnon@flir.com. And that's specific to this topic from today's webinar. But if you've got something that's a different kind of question or something that's more involved, you definitely want to use that customer help portal because they will direct you to the right contact in your region.
Right. Yep.
And so we'll leave that up there for a moment. Actually, let me back up the information for a second. And while we do that, we'll just keep that up there for the website. Some questions had come in. Is there a person had just asked, who was it? I think it was Michael? Maybe it's Michael. Can you clone images in the tablet like you can in Tools? I didn't think so.
No,
I wasn't sure.
No, we don't have that in the mobile app. No.
Okay. It's FLIR Tools related, but it's more the templates. Are they transferable? This Jay was using FLIR Tools Plus, and he had his own report templates. Is that anything he could bring over to the iOS version to use? Are those templates compapable with the iOS version? Not at all. Okay.
No, what you see is what you get in the iOS. There's just some really basic formats. Yeah.
We'll take this question. Greg had asked about a T400 series camera. Do you have to be in picture-in-picture mode to get the MSX capability, or will that automatically happen? He's got a 2012 version of that camera.
No, with the 2012, I'm not sure if that has MSX actually.
That's the red and gray camera, right? That's not the black one.
Yeah, I believe.
It's 6 years.
Oh,
now.
T400?
Yeah, T400.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, you'd have to be in one of the fusion modes. With that generation camera, the fusion was sort of optional. So if you're in thermal only, that's all you get. You won't have the image modes buttons. So if you save it in picture-in-picture mode, you will. So if you save it in any of the fusion modes, actually you'll have both. With the newer cameras, you always get both images. You'll get the photo and the JPEG embedded into one image. So that the visual image and the thermal image in one JPEG. So it's a little bit easier. Yeah.
Leonardo was asking earlier, and I'm not sure if we have the answer, but can he use his FLIR One? It's plugged into an iPhone 5S, so he must have the SLED version in remote mode, and then control the FLIR in his iPad. I don't know if I understood the sound like that.
How you would do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had another question here. With the original image, we got that one. Tammy, just a general question here, Tammy. Yeah, if you're going to think about infrared training and go to a class and get certified, I would absolutely bring an infrared camera with you. If you've got one, definitely bring it. We do a lot of hands-on exercises throughout the week in all of our training classes. And so if you're new to thermography, you got a brand new camera, you haven't had training on it, it's ideal if you can bring that to class, because then we can teach you how to get the most out of that. You'll get comfortable operating it, and actually we cover a little bit of the FLIR Tools software.
Bring your PC too. We try to encourage that if you can. Install the software, bring the PC, because the software is an important part of thermography these days. So.
Let's see. Do you get recertification credit for attending the conference? You absolutely do, Jim. If you go to information, we should be offering, again, 32 credits because it's a 4-day event. You should get all of your recertification credits right at information if you join us here this year in Austin. If you want webinars, Lance was asking about past webinars that we've recorded. If you go to infraredtraining.com/webinars, that'll bring you to our webinar page where we list both our live and on-demand tutorials. We call these tutorials, and you'll see all those listed there. I think we've got about 24 or so topics that are available now. Again, this one will be up here in the next week or so after we do a little bit of editing on it and get that uploaded to the website. We did have a recent information, best of information. This is the image you see right here. Jason was on with myself and Alex a few weeks back. We talked about the upcoming conference. There's a great lineup of about 60 different presentations, training clinics, poster sessions, lots of great networking opportunities. It's all covered in that webinar. And again, that'll be in Austin, Texas this coming September. And at this point, Tammy, unfortunately, no, there are no plans to resurrect the Mac version of FLIR Tools at this time. It's certainly feedback you're welcome to send in. Unfortunately, that's sort of beyond us. That's not in our realm.
That's a product management decision, but not in the short term. No.
It looks like Lance will be joining us in Austin. Well, we look forward to seeing you as well. That's great news. I think you're going to love it. It's a great city, too. It reminds me a lot of Nashville in some ways. So looking forward to the live music, great food, just a great atmosphere and great Southern hospitality. I can't wait to get back down to Austin.
We are doing some software clinics too.
Oh, yeah. You want to talk briefly about you and Paul or doing a couple of
we'll be doing FLIR Tools for PC. And we'll also be doing FLIR Tools Plus, which is the paid version with the word reporting. Probably spend the majority of the time on templates and that sort of thing. That's really the biggest advantage of the Tools Plus upgrade. And we will have an hour and a half for each clinic, so we'll be able to spend a little more time on both topics, both the free software and the Plus version, than we can during a typical level 1 where we might have a half hour, 45 minutes. We can't really get into every little detail, but we'll have a little more time at the conference. I'll be there all week, so we can certainly we'll be able to answer any questions you might have. So, yep.
We'll take one final question here from Carl. Is connectivity between the camera and the iPad done on Bluetooth only? Is it Bluetooth or
Wi-Fi?
It's Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi only.
Okay.
Wi-Fi only. Yep.
Wi-Fi only.
And you can share. There's two ways to do the connection. With iOS, you can share directly to the app. So this basically means that you can configure the camera to act as a Wi-Fi hotspot and then connect your device directly to the camera. So the camera shows up like a Wi-Fi hotspot in your settings on your device. So it's just a direct one-to-one connection. You don't need any external networks. But you can also connect through a Wi-Fi connection. So you connect the device and your camera to the same router, hotspot, or whatever, and it works that way too. But it's strictly Wi-Fi.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. We'll wrap it up. Appreciate it, Jason. Thank you for your time today. And thank you for joining us, folks. Remember, information's coming up. Jason in his clinic there with Paul. They'll be there all week. I've got a presentation I'm doing on building systems as well. It's a clinic, a 1.5 hour clinic. And actually coming up in about a month, we've got Nicole Martino from Roger Williams University coming in to do a live tutorial, live overview of her presentation that she'll be giving in Austin on using thermal imaging for concrete bridge deck inspections. That's fascinating use of the technology. She'll be here to talk a little bit about that, give us a little bit of a teaser for her presentation that's coming up. And then, of course, we've got more live webinars and tutorials that we'll be planning here for the third quarter into the summer and for the remainder of the year as well. All right, for Jason Gagnon, I'm Matt Schwegler with the Infrared Training Center. Thanks for joining us today, folks, for today's live tutorial on the iOS app. We'll see you online again soon for another live tutorial. Until then, have a great weekend.